Welcome to my YouTube channel, History in the Field. On paper, the country called America was born on July 4, 1776, but its story started thousands of years earlier. Toward the end of the Ice Age, about 15,000 years ago, a group of people from Asia crossed the ice bridge of the Bering Strait and entered Alaska. Today, we call them Native Americans. Over thousands of years, they spread across two whole continents. Some built the Maya civilization, some the Aztec, some the Iroquois Confederacy. Until 1492, when Christopher Columbus set foot on the Bahamas, no one in Europe even knew this massive landmass existed. Columbus himself died thinking he'd reached India, so he started calling the people here Indians, and the name stuck. After Columbus came the Spanish, hungry for gold. In 1565, they built the city of St. Augustine in Florida, the first permanent European settlement on what is now U.S. soil. Then came the French, the Dutch, and finally the British. In 1607, the British built Jamestown in Virginia. The first few years, so many people died that the colony nearly shut down. No food in winter, disease, and war with the natives. One winter, they were so desperate that people started eating human flesh. History calls it the starving time. Jamestown survived because of a man named John Rolfe. He started growing tobacco. Demand for tobacco in Europe was sky high. Overnight, Virginia got rich. But tobacco farming needed labor. At first, they brought indentured servants from Europe, work for 7 years, then freedom. But in 1619, the first ship full of Africans arrived in Virginia. At first, they were also kept as indentured servants, but slowly the laws changed and they were made slaves for life. Their children would be born slaves. That law was passed in 1662. This is America's original sin. In 1620, the Pilgrims came to Massachusetts on the Mayflower. They wanted religious freedom. In Plymouth Colony, half the people died the first winter. If it weren't for a man from the Wampanoag tribe named Squanto, the rest would have died too. Squanto taught them to grow corn, to use fish as fertilizer. After that harvest, the first Thanksgiving happened in 1621. Though the way we celebrate Thanksgiving today started after Abraham Lincoln declared it a national holiday in 1863. 13 British colonies slowly formed along the East Coast. Each had a different culture. Puritans in New England, landowners in Virginia, Quakers in Pennsylvania, slave owners in South Carolina. The one thing they had in common, they didn't like the British king's taxes and control. In 1765, Britain imposed the Stamp Act, tax on paper, cards, documents, everything. The colonies got furious. Their slogan was "No taxation without representation." We don't have a seat in Parliament, so we won't pay tax. In 1770, British soldiers fired on a crowd in Boston. 5 people died. It's called the Boston Massacre. In 1773, the Boston Tea Party happened. A group of men dressed as Native Americans boarded ships and dumped 342 boxes of tea into the water. Britain got angry and shut down Boston's port, took away Massachusetts' self-rule. The 13 colonies then united. In 1774, the First Continental Congress met. On April 19, 1775, the first shot was fired in Lexington. The shot heard round the world. George Washington was made commander. His army was farmers, shopkeepers, students. No uniforms, no training. At Valley Forge in winter, 2,500 soldiers died just from cold and disease. Still, Washington held on. On July 4, 1776, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. The famous line, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." Though Jefferson himself owned 600 slaves, and all men back then meant only white landowning males. The war lasted 8 years. France stood with America because they hated Britain. In 1781, British General Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris had Britain recognize the USA as an independent nation. After independence, new problem: how to run the country. In 1787, the Constitution was written in Philadelphia. Huge fight over slavery. Southern states said if we can't keep slaves, we won't join the Union. Then came the 3/5 Compromise. When deciding seats in Congress, a slave would count as 3/5 of a person. That was politics, not humanity. George Washington became the first president in 1789. After 2 terms, he voluntarily gave up power, setting a precedent. John Adams, then Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson bought Louisiana from France in 1803. For $15 million, America's size doubled. Land for today's 15 states came in that one deal. Jefferson then sent Lewis and Clark to see the West. They went to the Pacific, made maps, talked to native tribes. This is where the idea of manifest destiny was born. God wants America to stretch from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The price was paid by the natives. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson passed the Indian Removal Act. Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, thousands of people were forcibly sent west of the Mississippi. 4,000 Cherokee died on the way. That path is named the Trail of Tears. In 1846, war broke out with Mexico. America won and took California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico. In 1848, gold was found in California. 300,000 people rushed in for the gold rush. San Francisco overnight went from a tent city to a big city. But the biggest wound was slavery. Factories in the north, cotton in the south. By 1860, Southern cotton ran 80% of Britain's textile mills. Who would pick the cotton? 4 million slaves. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln became president.
He hated slavery, but said it wouldn't enter new states, wouldn't touch the old ones. The South didn't believe him. After Lincoln won, South Carolina left the Union. 6 states went with it. They made the Confederate States of America. On April 12, 1861, the first shot was fired at Fort Sumter. The Civil War began. It lasted 4 years. 600,000 people died, the bloodiest war in American history. Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, all slaves in Confederate areas freed. In 1865, the 13th Amendment passed, banning slavery in the whole country. 5 days after the war ended, Lincoln was shot dead in a theater. After the war, Reconstruction began. Slaves were free, but no land, no money, no education. In the South came Jim Crow laws, separate schools for black and white, separate buses, separate water fountains. In 1896, the Supreme Court said separate but equal was fine. In reality, it was never equal. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Carnegie made steel, Rockefeller, oil, Morgan, banking, Ford, cars. In 1869, the first transcontinental railroad was finished. New York to San Francisco in 6 days used to take 6 months. Millions of immigrants came, Irish, German, Italian, Chinese. Through New York's Ellis Island, 12 million people entered between 1892 and 1954. The Statue of Liberty welcomed them. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. But not everyone was welcome. In 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act passed. Chinese laborers banned. In 1917, America entered World War I. In 1920, women got the right to vote, 19th Amendment. From 1920 to 1933, Prohibition ran, alcohol banned. As a result, the mafia and gangsters like Al Capone were born. In 1929, the stock market crashed. The Great Depression began. 25% people unemployed. Banks failed. People's savings vanished. Franklin Roosevelt became president in 1933 and brought the New Deal. Government jobs, Social Security, control over banks. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. America entered World War II. 16 million Americans fought. Women worked in factories, called Rosie the Riveter. In 1945, atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The war ended. America emerged as a superpower. But the war at home wasn't over. Black people were still second-class citizens. In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give her seat to a white person on a bus. Martin Luther King Jr. led the Montgomery bus boycott. In 1963, he stood at the Lincoln Memorial and said, "I have a dream." In 1964, the Civil Rights Act passed. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act. At the same time, the Cold War was going on with the Soviet Union. In 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. 1970s, 80s, Vietnam War, Watergate, oil crisis. In 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. America became the only superpower. On September 11, 2001, the Twin Towers were attacked. 2,977 people died. America entered wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. In 2008, the financial crisis happened. Banks collapsed. Millions lost homes. The same year, Barack Obama became the first black president. In 2020, COVID came. More than 1 million Americans died. After George Floyd's death, the Black Lives Matter movement happened. In 2021, the Capitol Hill riot. Today, in 2026, America is still in a test. 340 million people, 50 states, 6 time zones. GDP $28 trillion, the biggest economy on Earth. Apple, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, all from here. And also, homeless crisis, school shootings, healthcare debt, political division, all of it exists. America's story isn't actually over. It's an experiment. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. Sometimes it fails, sometimes it amazes. French historian Alexis de Tocqueville traveled America in 1835 and wrote, "The greatness of America lies not in being more enlightened than any other nation, but rather in her ability to repair her faults. Make mistakes, learn, try again." That's the true documentary of the USA.
If you stand on American soil and look up, you'll see a different sky. In Manhattan, New York, the 104-story One World Trade Center stands where the Twin Towers once did. After 9/11, the whole country changed. Shoes off at airports, 20 years of war abroad, and an invisible fear inside. But Americans don't stop. The generation born after 2001 is called Gen Z. They've never seen an America without war. In Iraq, Afghanistan, more than 7,000 American soldiers died, 30,000 wounded. Cost $8 trillion. What was gained? That question still floats around political tables. Let's talk about the 2008 crisis. Lehman Brothers, a 158-year-old bank, went bankrupt in one night. Why? Subprime mortgage. Banks gave home loans to people who couldn't pay them back. They packaged those loans and sold them as safe investments. When people stopped paying installments, the whole system collapsed. The Dow Jones fell 50%. General Motors, Chrysler went bankrupt. 8.7 million jobs vanished. People my father's age lost half their retirement funds overnight. The Obama administration gave a $700 billion bailout to the banks. People hit the streets with Occupy Wall Street. We are the 99%. At that same time, a guy in a garage was building Tesla, Elon Musk. In 2008, Tesla was almost dead. Today, Tesla's market value is more than Toyota, Ford, and GM combined. To understand Silicon Valley, you have to stand in front of Stanford University. In 1939, 2 students, Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard, started HP in a garage. That garage is called the birthplace of Silicon Valley. Then came Intel, Apple, Google, Facebook, Netflix, Uber, Airbnb. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak built the Apple I in Jobs' dad's garage. In 2007, the first iPhone came. Today, 1.5 billion people have an iPhone in their pocket. Larry Page and Sergey Brin of Google built a search engine in a Stanford dorm room in 1998, called it Backrub, later Google. Today, Google is a verb. Mark Zuckerberg built Facebook in a Harvard dorm in 2004 to rate girls. Today, under Meta, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, 3.9 billion people use them. Because of these companies, if California were a separate country, it'd be number 5 in the world by GDP. But Silicon Valley has another face. Downtown San Francisco is a tent city. As of 2023, California has 181,000 homeless. Average rent for a one-bedroom apartment, $3,500. Even a Google engineer can't buy a house in San Francisco. Hollywood's story is different. In 1908, a Chicago company first came to shoot in California because there's sun year-round. The Hollywood sign was first built in 1923 as Hollywood Land for a real estate ad. In 1949, land was cut off. Today, Hollywood makes 500-plus movies a year, a $10 billion business. Marvel, Disney, Netflix control global culture. Even a Bangladeshi teenager grows up watching Spider-Man. But in 2023, Hollywood had a 148-day strike. Writers and actors stood against AI. Their fear? AI will write scripts. AI will copy actors' faces. People will lose jobs. In the end, the union won.
Now come to Middle America. Many call it flyover states. What lies between New York and LA? Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, cornfields and cattle farms. 40% of America's beef, 30% of its corn comes from here. There are farmers driving John Deere tractors with GPS-guided farming, drones monitoring crops, but small farms are dying. In 1935, there were 6.8 million farms. Today, 2 million. Big corporations are buying everything. In factory farming, 100,000 chickens in one shed. Village kids don't return after college. They move to the city. Villages empty out, schools close, hospitals close. It's called rural decline. In the 2016 and 2020 elections, that anger exploded in the ballot box. Texas is like a separate country, same size as France. Everything is bigger in Texas. Not a slogan, it's true. Oil, cattle, guns, and NASA. Apollo missions were controlled from Johnson Space Center in Houston. Houston, we have a problem. That line is from here. Texas joined the USA in 1845, but before that, it was an independent country for 9 years, the Republic of Texas. Even now, Texas school kids pledge, honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God. Texas GDP is $2.4 trillion, bigger than Russia. But in 2021, an ice storm knocked out the whole state's power grid. 246 people died from cold because Texas built its own grid, didn't connect to the federal grid for freedom. Florida is America's retirement home and Disney's land. 22 million people, 21% over age 65. From November to April, old folks from New York, Chicago become snowbirds and come to Florida. In Miami, 70% of people speak Spanish at home. Cuba is just 90 miles away. After Castro took power in 1959, 1.2 million Cubans fled to Miami. Their votes decide Florida's elections. Disney World opened in 1971, 43 square miles, same size as San Francisco, 58 million visitors a year. Florida's other name is the Sunshine State, but 1.2 million lightning strikes a year, America's lightning capital. And there are alligators. 1.3 million alligators live with people. They walk into golf courses, swimming pools. To understand Alaska, you have to talk about Russia. In 1867, America bought Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million, 2 cents an acre. Everyone laughed then, called it Seward's folly. 30 years later, gold was found in Klondike, oil in 1968. Today, Alaska gives 25% of America's oil. Every year, each Alaskan gets a permanent fund dividend. In 2022, it was $3,284 per person, just for being Alaskan. Alaska is so big, 2 Texases would fit with room left, but only 733,000 people.
In June, 24 hours of day. In December, 24 hours of night. Hawaii is America's newest state, joined in 1959. Before that, it was an independent kingdom. In 1893, American businessmen removed Queen Liliuokalani from power. In 1993, the Clinton administration officially apologized. Hawaii's volcano, Kilauea, is the most active on Earth. Lava has been coming out since 1983. The Big Island grows 42 acres bigger every year. Hawaii has no billboards, no snakes, no seagulls. You can't end the documentary without the story of America's roads. Interstate highway system, 48,477 miles. President Eisenhower started it in 1956, got the idea seeing Germany's Autobahn. The goal was to move tanks and troops fast if war broke out. Today, it's the lifeline of America's economy. 70% of goods go by truck. Route 66 is called the Mother Road. 1926 to 1985, it ran from Chicago to LA. John Steinbeck wrote about it in The Grapes of Wrath. Today, most of Route 66 is gone, replaced by interstates. Americans are car crazy. 290 million registered cars, 340 million people. License at 16. Public transport is only good in New York, Chicago, Boston. Everywhere else, you're stuck without a car. Guns will come up. Civilians in America have 393 million guns, more than people. The Second Amendment says, right to bear arms. Written in 1791 when loading a single-shot rifle took 20 seconds. Today, an AR-15 fires 45 rounds a minute. In 2023, 42,000 people died from gun violence. 54% of that was suicide. 51 school shootings in 2022. Still, gun control doesn't happen because of the NRA, National Rifle Association. 5 million members, spends billions in politics. In Texas, Walmart sells guns next to milk and eggs.
Healthcare is another battlefield. America spends $4.5 trillion a year on health, $13,493 per capita, highest in the world. Yet 26 million people have no insurance. Calling an ambulance is a $1,200 bill. One vial of insulin, $300, $30 in Canada. Why? Pharma companies set prices. Obamacare passed in 2010. 20 million people got insurance, but still 530,000 families go bankrupt every year from medical debt. Let's talk prisons. 1.9 million people in jail in America, 25% of the world's prison population, though America is only 4% of world population. Black people go to jail 5 times more than whites. The war on drugs started by Nixon in 1971. People served 20 years for marijuana. Now, weed is legal in 24 states, still illegal at the federal level. Private prison companies exist. Core Civic, Geo Group. They contract with states, keep 90% of beds filled or pay a fine. The more people in jail, the more profit. Still, people come. In 2023, 2.5 million people tried to cross the border. Mexico border is 1,954 miles. Trump wanted to build a wall, built 452 miles. Biden came and stopped it. DACA program has 530,000 dreamers, brought as kids by parents, know nothing but America, yet have no papers, live in fear of deportation. Then H-1B visas bring engineers from India, Bangladesh. 40% of Silicon Valley founders are immigrants. Google's Sundar Pichai, Microsoft's Satya Nadella, both Indian. America's food is proof of the melting pot. Apple pie is English, hot dog German, pizza Italian, taco Mexican, sushi Japanese. But real American food? Burger, fried chicken, buffalo wings. McDonald's opened its first franchise in 1955. Today, 40,000 stores, 100+ countries. Coca-Cola was sold in 1886 in pharmacies as a headache medicine, had cocaine until 1903. Today, 1.9 billion Cokes are drunk per day.
Sports is a religion. NFL Super Bowl, 115 million people watch. A 30-second ad costs $7 million. NBA, baseball, NASCAR, college football coaches get paid more than governors. University of Alabama's coach gets $11 million a year because one good football team means millions in donations, TV deals. You can't tell America's story without music. Jazz was born in New Orleans around 1900. African rhythm, European harmony, the pain of blues, all mixed together when Louis Armstrong blew his trumpet. The 1920s are called the Jazz Age. Then blues to rock and roll. In 1954, at Sun Studio in Memphis, Elvis Presley recorded That's All Right, a white boy singing black music. America shook. In 1960, Motown came from Detroit. Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, The Supremes. Same time, Bob Dylan in New York's Greenwich Village with a guitar sang Blowin' in the Wind, anthem of civil rights. In 1969, Woodstock happened. 400,000 hippies for 3 days in mud and rain listened to Jimi Hendrix's guitar. Make love, not war. 1970s, disco. 1980s, Michael Jackson. Triller sold 70 million copies, best-selling album in history. Same decade, hip-hop was born in the Bronx. DJ Kool Herc at block parties used 2 turntables for breakbeats. Grandmaster Flash, Run DMC, Public Enemy. 1990s, Tupac and Biggie, East Coast versus West Coast, both shot dead at age 25. Today, Drake, Taylor Swift, Beyoncé. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour 2023-24 made $2 billion, record for any tour. She alone boosts the GDP of small countries where she performs.
Talk education. Harvard started 1636, America's oldest university. 8 presidents from Harvard. MIT, Stanford, Yale, Princeton, Ivy League. But the real story is community colleges. 1,000 plus community colleges, 10 million students. From 18-year-old mechanics to 50-year-old single moms, everyone gets a second chance. Yet student loan debt is $1.7 trillion. Average grad leaves with $37,000 debt. To become a doctor, $300,000 loan. So many pay loans until age 40. In 2022, Biden wanted to forgive $10,000 per borrower. Supreme Court blocked it. You won't understand America without religion. Constitution says separation of church and state, but dollar bills say in God we trust. 63% Americans Christian, 29% no religion, 2% Jewish, 1% Hindu, 1% Muslim. The South is called the Bible Belt, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. If you don't go to church on Sunday, the neighborhood talks. Then in California, Washington, half the people don't go to any church. 60% of Utah is Mormon, Church of Latter-day Saints. No coffee, no alcohol, 10% of income to church. Salt Lake City is their Vatican. Weather is another character of America. Tornado Alley, Texas to South Dakota, 1,200 tornadoes a year. The 1925 tri-state tornado killed 695 people, ran 219 miles for 3 hours 45 minutes. Hurricanes hit Florida, Louisiana. Katrina in 2005 drowned 80% of New Orleans. 1,800 people died. Government response was so bad, Bush's ratings collapsed. Wildfires in California. The 2018 Camp Fire turned the town of Paradise to ash. 85 died. PG&E Power Company's wire cost it. They went bankrupt. Climate change isn't debate anymore, it's reality. In Phoenix 2023, 31 straight days over 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius plus, road asphalt melted. Miami is slowly sinking. If sea level rises 2 feet by 2100, 1 million homes go underwater. America's park system is the world's best. Yellowstone became the first national park in 1872. 63 national parks, 400 plus sites. Grand Canyon is 277 miles long, 18 miles wide,
1 mile deep. The Colorado River carved it for 6 million years. In Yosemite, El Capitan, 3,000 feet of sheer granite. Alex Honnold climbed it rope-free in 2017. Film Free Solo won an Oscar. Alaska's Denali is 20,310 feet, tallest in North America. Hawaii's Mauna Kea, if measured from seafloor, is 33,500 feet, taller than Everest. America is incomplete without the military. 750-plus military bases in 80 countries. Defense budget $877 billion, more than the next 10 countries combined. 11 aircraft carriers, each a 4.5-acre floating city. 5,500 nuclear warheads. Military-industrial complex, Eisenhower said it in his 1961 farewell speech. Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, they don't survive without war. Yet veterans suffer. 17 veterans die by suicide every day. Takes months to get a VA hospital appointment. The space program is America's pride. In 1957, when Russia sent Sputnik, America panicked. In 1961, Kennedy declared, "This nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon." On July 20, 1969, it happened. 400,000 people worked on Apollo. One Saturn V rocket today would cost $1.2 billion to build. After 1972, humans never went back to the moon. The shuttle program came in 1981. Challenger exploded in 1986. 7 died. One was a school teacher. The whole country watched live. Columbia broke apart on return in 2003. The shuttle program ended in 2011. Then, for 9 years, Americans rode Russian rockets to the space station. In 2020, SpaceX became the first private company to send humans. Now, Artemis program runs. 2026 back around the moon. 2027 landing. First woman, first black person. James Webb Telescope launched 2021, sees galaxies 13.5 billion years old, 1 million miles from Earth.
The internet was also born in America. In 1969, the first message was sent from UCLA to Stanford. LO. Tried to write login, crashed. ARPANET to Internet. In 1991, Tim Berners-Lee made the World Wide Web. 1993, Mosaic browser came. 1998, Google. 2004, Facebook. 2005, YouTube. 2006, Twitter. 2010, Instagram. Today, Americans average 7 hours of screen time a day. TikTok's algorithm is Chinese, but most users are in America, 170 million. In 2024, Congress wants to ban TikTok for national security. Free speech versus security, new civil war. America's legal system is complex. 50 states, 50 kinds of law. Weed legal in California, jail in Idaho. Abortion banned after 6 weeks in Texas, legal until birth in California. In 2022, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. After 50 years, abortion is no longer a federal right. Now states decide. 9 judges on Supreme Court, lifetime appointment. Now 6-3 conservative majority. They decide guns, religion, voting rights cases. 2000 election, Bush versus Gore, 537 vote win in Florida. Supreme Court stopped recount, made Bush president. The voting system is weird too. You can win the popular vote and not be president. In 2016, Hillary got 3 million more votes, Trump won. In 2000, Gore got 500,000 more votes, Bush won. Because of the Electoral College, 538 electoral votes. Get 270 and you're president. California, 54 votes. Wyoming, 3 votes. 1 Wyoming vote equals 193,000 people. 1 California vote equals 726,000 people. Swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, they decide who's president.
Campaigns cost billions. 2020 cost $14 billion, most expensive election in history. America's race relations are a 400-year wound. 1619 to 1865, slavery. 1865 to 1964, Jim Crow. 1964 to 2024, systemic racism, many say. In 2020, George Floyd's video. Police officer Derek Chauvin kept his knee on Floyd's neck for 9 minutes, 29 seconds. I can't breathe. The whole world watched. Protests in 60 countries. Chauvin got 22.5 years jail, but police reform didn't happen. Defund the police slogan rose, then when crime rose, refund the police. In Chicago, 2021, 800 murders, 25-year record. Then in New York, crime is 80% down from 1990. Asian Americans have a different story. 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act. 1942, 120,000 Japanese Americans put in camps after Pearl Harbor. 2/3 were born American. In 1988, the government apologized, paid $20,000 each. Today, 24 million Asian Americans, most educated, highest income group. But after China virus talk in 2020-21, 11,000 plus hate crimes reported. In Atlanta, 6 Asian women died in spa shootings. Latinos are now 19% of the population, 63 million, will be 28% by 2060. In California, Texas, New Mexico, Latinos are the majority. They're changing votes, food, music, language. More Mexican restaurants than Taco Bell. Bad Bunny, Shakira hit #1 on Billboard. But at the border, Title 42 used COVID as an excuse to send back 2.8 million people 2020 to 2023. Native Americans are now 9.7 million, 2.9% of the population. 574 federally recognized tribes. 326 reservations, 56 million acres, 2.3% of U.S. land. Poverty on reservations, 25%. Suicide rate, double that of whites. In Pine Ridge Reservation, average life expectancy 66, same as Haiti. Yet they survive. In 2020, Deb Haaland became the first Native Cabinet Secretary, runs the Interior Department. In 2021, Tokyo Olympics, Native athletes won 18 medals. What's America's future? By 2034, white people will be a minority. By 2050, 100 million people will be 65 plus. Social Security Fund runs out in 2033 if nothing changes. Climate refugees will come. AI will eat 300 million jobs, Goldman Sachs says. Then AI will add $7 trillion to GDP. Cold War 2.0 with China, trade, tech, Taiwan. CHIPS Act passed in 2022, $52 billion to make semiconductors in America. TSMC building a fab in Arizona. Yet people still dream. Every year, 1 million people get green cards. Nigerian doctor, Bangladeshi programmer, Mexican farmer, all come. Why? Ronald Reagan, in his 1989 farewell speech, said, "America is a shining city upon a hill." John Winthrop said it in 1630. 400 years later, the idea still lives. America isn't perfect. Civil War happened, Japanese were put in camps, lies were told in the Iraq War. Then America built Europe with the Marshall Plan, gave polio vaccine free, connected the world with the internet. NASA spin-offs, memory foam, insulin pump, baby formula, camera phone. Without America, no GPS, no Google, no HIV drugs.
I'll end with a number. 99%. 99% of Americans are descendants of immigrants. Only Native Americans are real American. Everyone else came sometime by boat, plane, or on foot. My grandfather didn't, your grandfather didn't, but someone's grandfather did. on the Mayflower, on a slave ship, through Ellis Island, across the Mexico border, on an H-1B visa. Everyone made a bet. Here, my kid's life will be better. Let's start the last part with the 2024 election. November 5th, 2024. Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. Biden stepped aside in July over age and debate performance. At 78, Trump again the Republican nominee, with 3 criminal indictments, 34 felony convictions in New York, falsifying business records. First convicted felon presidential candidate in American history. Still wins. 312 electoral votes, sweeps all 7 swing states, wins popular vote too, first Republican since 2004. Why? Inflation hit 9.1% in 2022, 40-year record. Dozen eggs, $5. Gas, $4 a gallon. People forget COVID, remember grocery bills. Record border crossings, 3.2 million encounters in 2023. Trump says mass deportation, finish the wall, drill baby drill. Young men, Latinos, black voters. Trump does better with all groups than before. January 20, 2025. Oath in the Capitol Rotunda. -6 degrees Celsius outside, so inside. Within 2 hours of oath, signs 26 executive orders. Border emergency declared. Out of Paris Climate Accord. Out of WHO. Creates Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE. Elon Musk in charge. Federal worker layoffs began. USAID shut down. 10,000 workers fired. 47,000 federal jobs gone in the first 100 days. Fork in the road email sent to 2 million workers. Resign and get 8 months' pay. 75,000 take it. Tariff war starts February 2025. 60% on China, 25% on Mexico, Canada. Baseline 10% on all countries. Biggest tariffs since Smoot-Hawley 1930. Stock market loses $6 trillion in 2 days. In April, declares Liberation Day, more tariffs. Then gives 90-day pause except China. Supply chain scrambled again. Walmart CEO says toilet paper will be empty again. Farmers can't sell soybeans. China stops buying. In 2018-19, Trump gave $28 billion bailout to farmers. This time, $15 billion in 2025. Immigration raids began. ICE enters factories, farms, Home Depots in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. June 2025, protests explode in LA. Without Governor Newsom's permission, Trump sends 4,000 National Guard, 700 Marines. First time since 1965 a president federalizes Guard against a governor's will. Waymo driverless taxis burned. Curfew imposed. $38 million damage.
Supreme Court ruled in 2024, presidents have immunity for official acts. Trump uses it as a shield, installs loyalists in Justice Department. Jack Smith's special counsel case dropped. Pardons 1,500-plus January 6th rioters on day 1. Enrique Tarrio, Proud Boys leader, freed from 22-year sentence. Big Beautiful Bill passes July 2025. $4.5 trillion tax cut, $1 trillion cut from Medicaid, food stamps, $46 billion for border wall, $30 billion to ICE. CBO says 12 million people will lose health insurance. Debt rises $3.4 trillion, but corporate tax stays 21%, no tax on tips or overtime. Foreign policy, America First 2.0. Tells NATO pay up or Russia can do whatever. Threatens to stop military aid to Ukraine. Tells Zelensky give us rare earth minerals or no support. February 2025, fights with Zelensky in Oval Office live on TV. You don't have the cards. Europe panics. Germany puts 500 billion euros into defense. Poland doubles army. Putin launches summer offensive in Ukraine. Middle East, Gaza war ongoing since 2023. Trump says build Gaza Riviera, send 2 million Palestinians to Egypt, Jordan. Arab world rejects it. Tension with Iran. In 2025, a 12-day Iran-Israel war.
America drops bunker busters from B-2 bombers on Iran's nuclear sites, Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan. Iran fires missiles at U.S. base in Qatar, then ceasefire. Cold War 2.0 with China heats up. Fear of 2027 Taiwan invasion. Biden's CHIPS Act continues, but Trump tells Taiwan stole America's semiconductor business. TSMC building $65 billion fab in Arizona. First 4-nanometer chips out in 2025. Apple, Nvidia get Made in USA chips. But TSMC says American workers hard to manage, not as dedicated as Japan and Taiwan. Culture clash. AI revolution started November 2022 with ChatGPT. 100 million users in 2 months, fastest in history. 2023 GPT-4, 2024 Sora Video, 2025 Agents. San Francisco has Anthropic open.